Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show on this Wednesday, the 9th of March, 2022. Thank you for tuning in. I'm glad to have you guys here. Now, the war over in Ukraine, it's been escalating. It seems like every day there for a number of days. It was always an new escalation. These are your elected officials making decisions for all the people out there. And the people are like, what, are you guys nuts? But the people don't really have a voice. They do it. They do it. They want to do it. They take you into war. Well, today they've settled off just a little bit. And, it's like a giant game of tit for tat. It's the stupidest thing ever. War is stupid. It's stupid. It's like a giant tit for tat. If you don't know what tit for tat is, I'll tell you what it is. Picture a husband and wife, and she does something to really upset him. Maybe she'll dip his toothbrush in the toilet or something like that. And then he'll do something to her. Maybe he'll put hot pepper in her food, and then it gets worse and worse. They keep doing worse things to each other. Well, this is what countries do. It's the stupidest game ever. And people get involved in it. The people get involved in it because the politicians tell them, hey, we're involved in it. It's all the politicians. It's all the elected officials. It's all the sovereign states that create these wars. And the people around the earth, they don't really have a belly for it. They don't want it. They never did want it. And this is through history. It's been done this way. And the people are like, what in the hell are you guys doing? Are you stupid? And, but right now, things have calmed down just a little bit in Ukraine, but not much. It's a very tense situation. But it's having a tremendous effect upon markets. Now, while everybody's attention is diverted, everybody is worried about the war in Ukraine and everything and the potential it has for some sort of catastrophe for mankind. Meanwhile, there's other things going on at the same time. So we're watching two things here. We're watching the war in Ukraine. I mean, generally in the public here, watching two things. And we're watching inflation. And we're thinking the world's coming to an end. But there's something that we're not watching out for, that we're not looking at. There's a black swan that could actually potentially be bigger than the war, more devastating, to actually shut down the entire world. And it's weighing, this black swan that I'm talking about is weighing on what happens with the war, how much further it wants to go, right? And I'll tell you what this black swan is. It's called over-leverage in the system. The financial system has been massively over-leveraged, and what could actually happen is what almost happened in 2008. This is the black swan I'm watching right now. What almost happened in 2008, let's just put it this way. There's 10 times the energy there for it to happen this time. And if it happens, it'll happen suddenly, and it's called a meltdown. A meltdown of the entire system. And once it happens, there's no going back. The entire financial system will do what Jim Rickards said. Ice 9. Freeze. And who can unfreeze it? It's so big. It's the whole world. Who can unfreeze it if it freezes? So what would that look like, guys? If we had an Ice 9 event worldwide, what would it look like? Well, it's simple. No transactions would be possible worldwide between anybody. No transactions over the internet unless they're cryptocurrency transactions. But the regular financial system, the legacy financial system, the financial system that the whole world operates would be locked. This means your banks, they close. This mean that we wouldn't even be able to get money out of an ATM. Nothing. I'm talking about done, finished, cooked. We're talking about stores out there. They wouldn't be able to make transactions. Uh, and I mean, you're saying, "Oh, I'd rather buy something with my dollars. I got cash." I'm sorry. Where would you go to use it? The dollar would go to. It would be worth nothing, and because you can't spend it unless you do a transaction with your neighbor or something like that. But that wouldn't last very long before they would realize that they can't spend that money anywhere else either. So if your neighbor decided to sell you, say, a battery, he would realize, hey, where can I spend this money anywhere else? I can't. I don't want it. Sorry, I don't want those dollars. You got anything else? It's going to revert to gold, silver, if that happens. But, now, you guys been watching my show for a while, and you've heard me mention something a few months ago about food wars, right? If we get an ice 9 situation and the system locks up, very soon there afterwards, first off, I've explained to you how your money wouldn't be able to purchase anything, even cash. Nobody would want it. Because you can't spend it. The system's locked. You can't deposit it in your bank anymore. The banks are all closed. So, very quickly, things in the system would stop functioning. How are the trucks going to purchase fuel? So the stores would all go empty if we get an ice 9. And then the next thing you know, a few weeks later, bink, the power goes out. That's when things would get really serious. And I'm talking worldwide. The whole world, lights go out. Internet goes down. Then things get really serious. Not only can you not spend your dollars anymore, but at that point, gold and silver will not be taken either. There's only one money then at that point. Food and water. That's the money. That's when the food wars would begin. Think about how vulnerable our society is. And think about what the food wars would do. This is the potential of an ice 9 situation. And we are taking this system right now. This war is pushing this system toward the edge of an ice 9. And, the markets were starting to, and they still are. I mean, they've backed off of the war thing just for a little bit. Like it's not quite as active. It's not quite the escalation. They didn't send the jets from Poland or whatever, And now they're talking about maybe I guess they might have another meeting between Russia and whatever. It's not progressing like it was a few days ago. It's fast. It was progressing really fast a few days ago. It slowed down just a little bit. But I've been watching the instability within the financial system in a number of charts and stuff. And this instability it's more powerful than what happened in 2008. And if things start to turn out bad in the world situation regarding the war and so on, the system could go into a meltdown overnight. It can happen that fast. Anyway, we're going to get in there and take a look at the markets. Now, what I'm telling you guys is what would happen if the whole world ice 9'd and melted down? The whole world's financial system, everywhere, just melted down. What would happen with the war situation over there? Would it continue to rage? Well, this is a huge question mark for me, even, is how do you wage war when the finances are gone that underlines the entire system that makes it function? See, everything runs on money, and wars run on money too. So if the world were to ice nine and everything were to freeze financially, uh, how do you even function in an army? How would you even get your men back home if the whole world went crazy in an ice nine and the whole world just melted down financially? Because everything functions on money. Armies don't work for free. They work on money as well. And if they realize that they ain't going to get paid, police forces that uh, so-called keep the order and peace, but actually what they've been doing lately in a lot of countries is been suppressing, uh, they've been being used as a tool to suppress the voice of the people. They don't, if they don't even get paid, they're not going to be out there. I'm telling you, the police officers, they're standing in line, they're standing and facing down with a bunch of protesters. They just don't want to be there, most of them. They're only doing it for a paycheck. Everything functions on money, guys. And the system could devolve so quick if the money's not there. And you can't impress anybody out there and say, well, you're going to continue to get paid if they realize that the whole structure of the system is not functioning. They know it's a lie. The pay is worthless. Our whole system's structured on money, and we got a huge problem in the financial system. Almost happened in 2008. And this is the big black swan that people are not focusing on because they're focusing their attention on the war. And I understand. I mean, my attention's been riveted to this war. I understand. Because of the war's potential, too. So, if you look at it like horses in a race, you got this war horse, and he's plodding along toward destruction. And every time they make an escalation in the situation, these leaders, they never ask us. We just see it in the news. They're going to do this and we're going to do that, and it makes things heat up more toward the war. And that war horse is plodding toward the end of a cliff of total destruction for the earth because we are in the nuclear age. Meanwhile, you got this other horse, which is inflation. And then there's this third horse out there nobody's paying any attention to. Nobody even sees it. And it's the situation that happened in 2008 where the financial system almost melted down. And it can be irreversible once it does melt down because the system deflates. And there's not the money out there to cover it. Neither will there ever be. And it would be an impossible. So we got so many problems out there in the world right now that are not being resolved. They're slowly growing larger. We got to get it in there now. I mean, I've rambled on for 13 minutes talking about this, but it's huge. It's absolutely huge. Let's get the chart started right here and take a look. We're looking right now at the silver price. It's come back down. Now, see, the war issue settled back a little bit today. It hasn't really gone away, but it's just kind of not really in our face so much right now. The escalation ever since I guess they decided not what, I don't know, about the jets or whatever. But anyway, it's down 41 cents silver today. So you see this big pop in the price of gold and silver. It is fear related to the system. They're buying gold and silver. They're frightened right now of what could happen within the world's geopolitical scene. And they're buying physical, and I'm going to tell you, they must be running. They must be running out. I think what they're doing is they're withholding for industry the silver that they have, and they're not putting so much silver into the bar and coin demand where there's great demand. In other words, I guess I say they're rationing it to the retail investor. I think that's what they're doing. They're rationing it, and so these retail investors are having a hard time getting product when it comes to silver or gold. It's difficult for them, and they make their living off of selling gold and silver. And when it's difficult for them like this to obtain product, how do they make their money? I mean, if they can never get product, I imagine they would all go to business. Ones that only sell retail and don't have something else on the side. We're looking at $25.97 for silver. Let's take a look at gold. Gold's at over $2,000. It's 2002. It's down 49 bucks today. Crypto's been heating up a little bit. We're looking at a Bitcoin price today at 42,388. It was in the 30s, but now she's back up into the 40s again. It's not unusual for Bitcoin to gain a few $1,000s overnight. You know, we're approaching the end now of this bear that we've been in on cryptocurrencies. There's only three ways out of fiat currencies. And gold, silver, and cryptos. Those are the three ways out. Those are the three exit doors if you're going to try to get out of fiat currencies. Fiat currencies are definitely going to zero. That's just what I've been telling you about there, is that fiat currencies could go to zero overnight in a meltdown. A deflationary meltdown. And don't think saving dollars will save you in that. Because you have to spend them. You have to have some place to spend them. You have to have somebody that's willing to accept them. And if the banking system is just basically locked doors, and there's an enormous default ongoing in the system, I mean a default on treasuries. So much for being a safe haven. Well, they've been warned. I've been warning them on my show for years that the U.S. Treasury is actually worth zero because it's a defunct corporation. The whole world, imagine the whole world going bankrupt overnight. That's basically what the meltdown is. And so their fiat currencies would be worth zero overnight. Well, we're talking about major craziness here if that happens. We're talking about an entire breakdown of the entire global system. And that's what I've been talking about in the first part of this show. And we're talking about everything just stopping, grinding to a stop, and who can get it structured and going again. Because it's something that's been slowly established and built over thousands of years to this enormous big system that we have now. And if it just stops, who the hell's going to be able to get it going again? And if you can't get it going, it's going to devolve. And it's going to leave everybody in the world stranded. And that would be the impetus for food wars. And I'm not talking about big wars. I'm talking about little tiny wars on a tiny scale through the whole system, here, there, and everywhere. People fighting over what food's left. Because food means life. And so basically, it would be a food wars where every man would be fighting for every morsel of food that's left. Every last crumb. And then when all the crumbs are gone, then it's lemmings over the edge of the cliff. In nature, that's what happens, you know. Lemmings build up their population to a certain point, and then I guess they all jump over the cliff. You know? Together. And smack on the rocks down below or whatever. I think I saw a National Geographic special on that years ago or something. Lemmings. But this is the thing. Humanity is on the edge of the cliff right now. And I'm rambling on a little bit. We're looking at Bitcoin going up. But what Bitcoin has its specialties. It's able to transfer across the internet seamlessly. But the key word is the internet. Gold and silver don't require the internet, but they can't transfer across the internet. I mean, one has specialties it can do, and the other one has specialties it can do. But these are the only two ways out of the dollar and out of the fiat currencies. But if the system were to completely melt down, they would all become worthless too. And the only thing that would have any worth is food and water. But you wouldn't be able to get any more unless you produce it yourself. Food wars. That's what would happen if we do get a black swan that nobody's expecting, which is a financial meltdown of the entire system. Then it would be down to food wars. And ultimately, in the end, is it could be more devastating, or just as devastating as real wars to the population. It could be absolute madness. Movies like apocalyptic movies, a post-apocalyptic world kind of movies. A world gone completely bonkers. And yes, they would be able to establish order again, but only at a certain point where it became manageable to be able to establish order again. Uh, it would reemerge. The system would reemerge at a certain point, but it might be months and months and months in. It might be even a year in, or it might be. It would probably be at the very least 3 months. It would take them to reorganize and restructure things. Only after the madness has ended. Only when the people are ready to be restructured. See, this happened in Easter Island. You got a massive population. They had forests there and everything, and they're chopping the forest down. They're and they were building farms and everything else, and they were supporting a population that was too great for the size of the islands. All of a sudden, the war started. The whole thing devolved. Their economy just fell to pieces, and then they had food wars. And ultimately, it just kept going until there was less and less people on those islands, until in the end there was just a handful of them left before they reestablished order again. That's looking at a small version of what could happen to the entire world, and no country would be left out. If you can imagine how quick the world's population would decrease in an event like that, where they couldn't restructure order again. In other words, order devolves because order is connected to the financial system. And they lack the ability to pull it back together again and restructure it because it's so big. And basically, it just it disintegrates until it gets down to a point where they can restructure and bring it back together and restore order. But at that point, you're looking at probably at least a 90% reduction in the population. And I'm just giving you guys a straight on it in a very analytical form. And that's just the way it is. Anyway, let's take a look now at the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which is up today. 690 points at 33,323. And now we're going to take a look at crude oil, which is $118. It's down $4.73. So we're seeing a reversal of the action that we were seeing when things were heating up with this war. Things are leveling off just a little bit for a day. I mean, what are they doing? Taking a little break for just a few hours before they go back to escalating things again? These politicians, they're going to crack the system. They could send us spiraling into something that they can't manage their way through. They don't. Yeah, maybe they got their bunkers or whatever, but I mean, they ain't gonna save them in a world gone mad. Uh, what can I say? Is they have set up this situation. They're responsible all the way. They're responsible. The world leaders are responsible the whole way because they had a chance in times gone by to set things up so that we would have a peaceful, wonderful world and a wonderful existence here. They're responsible for setting it up this way, the way it is set up at this point, which is mad. Well, they call it mutually assured destruction, but mad. The world's totally mad, and the financial system's even worse. And they were the ones that structured it. Not us, not the people. But the people are the ones who suffer. And so I guess the people are stupid for just sitting there and allowing them to these maniacs to create a world where we can't raise our kids and feel safe. Uh, anyway, crude oil, $4.73. Let's take a look at the move index today, 133. See, it's staying toasty hot, but it's leveled off just a little bit today, but it hasn't really come down. And this shows the instability in the credit markets that could cause a meltdown. I mean, this is way too high. Let's take a look now at bonds, and we're looking at bond yields rising today. And that's because they're fear buying into these bonds because they think this will save them. They have an awful lot of faith in fiat currency that's based on nothing and is completely in debt for everything. Let me take a look now at the U.S. dollar index at 97.95, and it's sliding off. It's falling today. It's down. It's down 1.12%. Well, this has been your show, guys. I hope it didn't depress you guys any. But this is the way it is out there. We're not living in a stable world or a stable environment. A lot of people out there, they might have a little niche that they've found for themselves, where they do have sort of a stable world and a stable environment in their little niche. Maybe they got a little piece of property out someplace away from the city, and they got the gates closed and everything else, and they kind of live their life, and the sun comes up each morning and sets each evening, and nothing much seems different. While these world events on the news, maybe they don't watch them. Maybe they turn the news off, and for them, they don't have any realization. They maybe won't even know when the rest of the world starts to go crazy until it's on their doorstep, and then they'll say, what's happened? Things are going crazy. But they won't know until it actually happens because they're isolated themselves. They're kind of like an isolated circuit that's not connected to the rest of the body of the world and what's going on in the world. And that's good to a point, but it's not good once it directly starts to adversely affect them in a very negative way, and they don't know why. Because they haven't been keeping up. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys, and we'll catch you guys in the very next show. Bye-bye.